What's the most FK'd up thing you saw at a sleepover? Sleepover in friend's basement with 4 of us there. I think this was 4th grade. Sometime around midnight the host friend's dad opened the door at the top of the basement stairs to ask if we wanted snacks, but right as the words started out of his mouth, he comes tumbling down the stairs and hit his head pretty hard. He didn't move for what felt like forever and we heard from the top of the stairs some delirious yelling. My innocent self thought it was the host's mom, afraid because her husband just tripped and fell. My other friend later explained to me that, no, the host mom was drunk off her butt and pushed the dad down the stairs. So yeah, I guess I witnessed a wife try to kill her husband. I slept over a friend's house when I was around 10 and we were playing Nintendo. At some point he yelled crap and without a word his dad comes storming into the room, pulled him up and just started spanking him in front of me, then took him out into the hallway to scold him. Then he just came back as if nothing happened but with a red face and teary eyes. It was the most awkward, uncomfortable night of my life, having to continue on pretending to have a fun sleepover after that, but I felt so bad for him. I did my best. It was what I imagined sleeping over at Butter's house would be like. I have another sleepover story that always sticks in my mind too. It does not deserve its own post, so I'll just summarize here. Watched Aladdin at a b-day party. Woke up later that night to friend's older bro jerking off noisily in his sleeping bag with the movie paused on a scene of Jasmine. The second story is hilarious. A friend of mine at school used to recount her side of entire conversations from the day in her sleep, like a tape recorder. It was both weird and highly informative. My friend's older brother would get mad at her for small things, went in his room, lost the TV remote, shut a door too loudly, and proceed to beat the crap out of her, pull her hair and hold her down and punch her in the sides, literally throw her across the room. He was almost 10 years older than us and easily had 150 pounds on her. He would eventually tire from the beatings, leave the room, and she would go back to playing with me like nothing happened. I remember being so unbelievably shocked by it, but eventually became desensitized because of how normal it seemed to her and how unfazed she was by it. Not something I saw, but one of my friends in high school told a group of us girls at a sleepover that she'd been babysitting the previous weekend and the girl reported to her that she was being molested by her uncle. My friend was so upset and scared to tell her parents. They were family friends and hadn't told anyone. We made her go upstairs and tell her mom. Her mom called the other family, and we basically heard both her parents sobbing off and on all night. The other parents called the cops, and as far as I recall, the uncle was arrested and spent some time in prison. My friend was really scared she'd have to speak in court but didn't have to. That's rough, but I'm glad you guys advised her to do the right thing for the kid she was babysitting. I didn't see this happen, but I heard about it afterwards. When I was in 9th grade, a group of boys on the basketball team were hanging out in one of the hotel rooms on an overnight trip and decided to prank this awkward, unpopular guy. They covered up with blankets and started making motions like they were masturbating. The target of the prank asked what they were doing. They told them we're whacking it and asked him to join. Well, he did. They pulled the cover off him and revealed that he was particularly well endowed. His name was James something, but from that point on he carried the nickname Mule. I, as well as many other people, heard the full story when we were wondering why he had the new nickname. How we got you, holy crap. It's huge. One time I was at a friend's house for a sleepover and he and another friend held me down on the couch and tried to light my hair on fire with lighters. I managed to break free and ran upstairs and asked my friend's mom to let me use the phone. Mom came promptly to pick me up. Needless to say, I was not on speaking terms with the other two again. Dang. Sorry that happened to you. When I was in the 6th grade, I was going to stay the night at a friend's house, but we ended up at another kid's down the street. This guy ended up talking about how he would hump his bed until there was a wet spot on his boxers. He ended up doing this while we were in the room watching TV and then showed us the wet spot. And that was how I learned how to jerk off. Same. I was so confused when I saw the wet spot in my bed after doing this. I actually ran to my parents asking them why my pee was sticky, haha. Kid who had a pee jar in his closet. It was a gallon pickle jar. If he had to pee in the middle of the night he had to use the jar. Once his mom put him, us, in his room for the night. We weren't allowed to leave his room until she came to get us the next morning. How did they make sure of that? The doorknob was turned around backwards so they could lock us in. Holy crap, my inbox. Okay, the jar was for emergency use only and was emptied and washed in the morning if he used it. Probably rarely used it since most kids that age can hold it all night. He was a bad kid and stayed in trouble. Pretty sure the lock thing was to send him to his room and make sure he stayed there. Don't know about the parents' sexual habits, but I'm not surprised that most of Reddit immediately jumped on the drug-fueled orgies responses. I was 13-14 and staying the night at a friend's house with 2 other girls when we were woken up by a loud popping noise from her brother's room. Naturally, 4 curious girls went to see what the heck he was doing at 3 in the morning. Her mom came running up the stairs about the time we entered his room and quickly herded us back out of his room in hysterics. It took my brain forever to register that he had shot himself in the chest. Luckily he survived, and I never had another sleepover at someone else's house again. Plenty of nightmares though. When I was in elementary school, I got invited with my sister to a birthday party of one of her friends. Everything was going fine for most of the night, and then the catastrophe happened. Her mom came down to the basement and was clearly very upset, but didn't explain why. She then had each of us line up on the stairs from the basement to the ground level of the house and brought us in one by one. I wasn't the first in line, but no one was telling us what happened once it was their turn. Finally I was up, and her mom took me into the bathroom and showed me a trash can with a poop in it. She was basically on the verge of tears, pointing to the trash can and asking me, "Is this your poop? Is this your poop?" It wasn't. We never found out whose it was, or at least I wasn't told. We have joked that someone will finally come forward on their deathbed, but my sister and I have since lost contact with those girls, so we may never know. This one is my favorite, haha. When I was around 13-14, a kid I invited over to my sleepover birthday party decided to strip down to his tighty whities right before cake and ice cream. Myself, my parents, friends and relatives were mortified. Apparently it was normal behavior at his house. Maybe he didn't want to get cake and ice cream all over his clothes. We were playing hide and seek with my friend's little sister and I went into the unlocked bathroom while loudly saying, "Where could she be? Mara been here." The little sister was 5, we were 10, and the father was jackhammering his dong while staring at himself in the bathroom mirror and had his other hand tweaking his nipple. I left and walked home. I remember we did a secondary school bonding thing in our first year where you effectively go to a summer camp for the weekend with the whole year group. About 211-12-year-olds, to get to know everyone. Sleeping arrangements were in dormitories with bunk beds, separated by gender, about 30 to a room. Lights go out in my dorm. No teachers, just 30 11-12-year-olds that don't know each other that well. A kid farts. Hilarious. Someone else farts. A few others. Then, I vividly remember a distinct sloppy sound followed by a panicked "oh." A kid shat himself. I would also like to note, this was not the only public pants crapping by this kid. He did it again final year during our Duke of Edinburgh Award expedition overnight whilst camping. I was sharing a tent with him. That's a whole different story. When I was like 9 or 10 I spent the night at a friend's house. I knew his mom was pretty strict, but holy crap did I find out how much. He did something really minor like leave his socks in the living room and she started shouting at him like he left a turd on the floor or something. Then he pee her off again that night and she wailed on his butt so hard that it scared me. She was a psycho the way she was spanking and shouting at him. I hated her guts after that night. When I was in first grade, my mom got a second job working Friday and Saturday nights. I would stay at my best friend's house. This lasted like 2 weeks until I told her all the weird things that happened. 1. My BFF was extremely skinny. She was way underweight, but her mom told everyone it was a medical condition. Her mom literally counted the grapes we ate. She had a very strict diet and Pudgy was starving. No processed sugar, no bread, no pasta. My fetus was dying. 2. Her dad would take photos of us. Once he called me into the office where he had my photo up in a bikini with my chubby stomach and legs. He proceeded to Photoshop my body and make me very skinny. He told me how much nicer I would look if I dieted. He also asked me to sit on his lap and play computer games even though his daughter, my BFF, was not allowed in the office and she was getting bathed. I ran away and knocked on the bathroom door. 3. Her little brother was allowed to do whatever he wanted. We could only watch PBS, but he would have control over the living room TV and put in anything he wanted. We weren't allowed in the room if he decided to watch TV. He could also hit and punch us with no punishment. He was like 4. 4. Her mom would give her bath because she couldn't be trusted to clean herself. She also had to wear the clothes her mom picked out. It was always really tight and too small. The second weird thing happened on the last night I ever stayed there. My mom flipped her crap and called CPS on them. She told me when I was older, my BFF disappeared to some private Christian school. When I saw her once in high school, she hated me and she was about 5 feet 5 inches and maybe 99 pounds. I would be surprised if she ever was in the triple digits. I really loved the girl. What the actual frick? Sorry you had to go through that. That's freaking disgusting. The dad's mistress came over. Apparently the mother knew of her existence and it had been putting a strain on things. My buddy and I hid in the basement while the wife and mistress were screaming at each other upstairs. Shockingly did not cause a divorce. I took a bath and when I got out my friend told her mom I had soap in my bag. I never said that until her mom made me get back in the bath and washed my bits for me. So wrong now that I'm an adult and think about it. I saw pee for the first time. We were watching movies on my friend's TV and fell asleep watching. Must have been on Cinemax or something because I woke up in the middle of the night. It was a porno of a man and woman in the shower. That was really awkward since I was 13 and hadn't experienced anything like that. I was too scared to turn it off because her parents were up in another room and I didn't want them to know I was awake. So I pretended to be asleep. I eventually fell back to sleep but it took forever. The worst was her parents fighting. They would yell, curse, hit each other, and were always drunk. What's the most fricked up is I stayed there so often that it became sort of normal to me. I didn't like it but it wasn't something I could stop. I had so many weird and inappropriate conversations with her drunk mother. Conversations about me and my friend's sex lives or about her problems. The worst was when he shoved her into a metal pole and it bent. I didn't see it happen but that pole was like a twisted monument to the violence that regularly took place. All the sleepovers there in my teens messed me up more than I thought. If I told my parents the whole truth of how bad it was I don't think they would have let me sleep over. Your friend must have deeply appreciated your company though. It's awful that kids must live in situations like that. Wasn't the night, it was the morning after. I was at a friend's house in the big city when I was maybe 8 or 9. I had gone to the bathroom for NR1 and gone out. Nothing strange. Then my friend goes in after me and comes back out. About 10 minutes later his mom goes mental and screams at me. At first I don't understand what it's about but then she points me to the bathroom where there's a big puddle of pee on the floor. She made me clean up her son's pee because he'd told her I had done it. Needless to say I didn't really speak to my friend after that. Was an awkward breakfast. When I was about 15, there was a couple in my cousin's congregation that offered to host a sleepover for some of the teen girls. I was staying with my cousin at the time, so I went with her to their house for the sleepover. When I got there, I realized that this couple only had one kid, and it was a little boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old. The couple set us 5 teenage girls up in the basement. It was furnished and carpeted, not a creepy basement, and the wife set out a bunch of snacks and then we didn't see her or the little boy the rest of the night. But the 30-something dad spent most of the evening with us, offering us sips of his Kahlua drink and leaving the liquor cabinet doors open when he would announce that he was going to another room. I was creeped out, but I was so sheltered at the time that I didn't understand why exactly until years later. I had a friend whose dad had a fish tank of piranha. I really wanted to feed them a hot dog but her dad told me they already ate. During the night I snuck down to where the fish tank was and there was picked clean fish bones in the tank. The dad was down there watching football and he spotted me and asked if I still wanted to feed the piranha. Being a small piranha obsessed child I nodded and produced the hot dog I saved from the barbecue dinner we had. It was the most terrifying and awesome thing I have ever saw. 10/10 would never want to watch 3 piranha go at a hot dog ever again. Least not in person. This one is actually pretty cool and wholesome. I grew up in a very rural area of the southern US. A middle school girlfriend was having a sleepover and later in the evening her mom told us she, the mom, could talk to the spirits of dead people through her daughter. She got her daughter drunk on wine and hypnotized her. I don't know how long we sat in that room, but a lot of time went by with her mom demanding spirits speak through her daughter. Her daughter admitted to all sorts of terrible things, supposedly dead people's spirits speaking through her. This was over 30 years ago and I still remember it. I remember the mom sitting in a chair chain smoking and her daughter slumped over in a chair, seemingly dog drunk, slurring confessions of murder, suicide, being killed, etc. She told us sometimes spirits would manifest in such a way that her daughter would attack her and tear the house up. It was really strange. Her daughter was a very quiet girl. The things that spoke through her were not like her at all. It was fricked up. Whoa, that's insane. I hope the daughter had a peaceful transition into adulthood. 5 of us at a friend's mom's house in high school, 17/18. Woke up and there were 4 of us. One of the guys there was apparently in the mom's room fricking the guy's mother. The worst part? Apparently it wasn't a new thing. The mom had been picking off her sons' friends and F-king them to make her ex-husband jealous. I bet the son plays COD. It's nothing that I saw, but more like something that happened to me. I was 13 when I stayed over at my friend's house for the night. We were up pretty late playing video games and eating snacks. I got thirsty, so me and my friend went to the fridge to get a bottle of Coke. When I opened the bottle, the soda shot straight up my face and got all over my white shirt. I asked my friend if I could shower since I was pretty sticky from the soda. Once I got out the shower, I noticed my friend and his little brother were knocked out in the living room sofas. BTW, I had no shirt on since the soda ruined mine completely. That's when their aunt came through the front door and saw me. She got close to me and started to rub her hands around my chest and shoulders. I was completely shocked and stayed still. Then my friend's brother woke up and saw what was going on. She stopped touching me right away and said, "Out of the office, I thought you were my nephew." Then went straight to her room and never came out until I left the next morning. Even if I were her nephew, why the heck would she touch me like that? To this day I wonder what would have happened if my friend's little brother hadn't woken up. EWWWTF. I'm sorry that happened to you. Girl put a massive ant in her vagina right in front of me like it was nothing. Same girl introduced my sisters and I to the choke yourself out game, where you take several deep breaths, hyperventilate and hold your breath until you pass out. Whoever fakes it had to sleep alone. Needless to say, my mom was pee when she found us all unconscious in different areas of the bedroom. I forgot we had done this at sleepovers until you said this. We'd hyperventilate then hold our throats until we blacked out. That was messed up. One of my BFF's dads tried to get me drunk and made a pass at me. I was 15 and staying at my one girlfriend's house. Her dad tried to be cool and buy us wine coolers. So she and I were up drinking and listening to music in her room. Her dad had to listening right outside of the door because when I went out into the hallway he popped right up in my face. He started getting way too close and handsy. This was not my first rodeo. I have been dodging my mom's sugar daddy's BF for years. So I saw what was happening and escaped into the bathroom. I pretended to be sick until he left the hallway. I was friends with his daughter until college. I just made sure to never be alone with her dad again. Sad thing is I wasn't her only friend who he tried things with, but we never talked about it until years later. Wine coolers. Favorite drink of the creepy dads. Not me, but my friend's story. She went to a sleepover at a Catholic girl's house. The girl said the word penis and her mom beat her with a belt for 15 minutes straight. She never stayed at that girl's house again. When I was 12, we went on a family trip to Vegas. I woke up in the hotel to my parents having sex in the bed next to me. I was trapped and had nowhere to go. My mom said something along the lines of, "Stop, we're gonna wake up the kids." My dad gets up, walks over to our bed and rips the blankets off our faces and said, "See, fast asleep." I should have won an Oscar. It would have only been better if you had your eyes wide open, blank stare. My friend starting having phone sex with her BF while we were watching a Pixar movie. I hid in the bathroom for like 20 minutes so I could convince her I was sick so I could get a ride home from my mom. We were also in junior high. I like how you had to specify it was a Pixar movie, like, this would be fine with the Expendables or some crap. My friend jerking off naked. except his white socks. Kind of weird. I mean, he's got to cover his feet. He's not a barbarian. We had put up a tent in my buddy's backyard. There was a catwalk that his backyard had a gate to that went down between the houses and eventually came to a school field. It was late. We were chilling in the tent laughing and eating snacks when we heard voices coming down the path. There were shrubs along the fence line, except for the gate area, so they couldn't see us. But we snuck out and hid in the bushes and were going to scare them when they walked past. But the closer they got, the older they sounded. One guy sounded really angry, so we decided to stay super quiet, let them pass, and go back to the tent. When they got just past the house, the dude was pressuring this girl to give him a BJ right then and there. She didn't want it, but gave it after asking a couple times. We had to sit there for like 10 minutes until he came and were terrified that if we made a sound he would see us and kill us. We were probably around 12 years old. Scary crap. Ugh. That poor girl. Had a giant sleepover when I was 8 or 9, I wanna say, for a friend's birthday. He had all his friends over and his parents had also invited some friends over as well. As the night winded down, we all went into my buddy's room to jam some Super Smash Bros. Melee on his new GameCube. Fast forward to about 2 AM in the morning and most of the boys had fallen asleep save for a few of us. I had to go to the restroom horribly. I was holding everything in as I was terrified of using other people's restrooms in fear of making a mess or smelling up their bathrooms. So asked my friend where the bathroom was. I still don't know if I misheard him or was just stupid and forgot the minute I walked out of the room, but I somehow ended up at his parents' door and opened it up full force. My young butthole couldn't withhold the massive bowel movement that had been brewing, and found myself staring at his mother being banged by this dude that was at the party while his dad was sitting in the chair in the corner, getting a BJ from the other dude's wife. I opened the door so quick they didn't even have time to semi-hide what they were doing. So there I was, 9 years old, frozen in place staring at his mother being plowed by this man while his dad was receiving head from the other man's wife. I still see their faces to this day. The only reason I know they were swinging is I could see every single one of their faces. They all just looked at me trying to process what just happened. After a good 5 seconds of dead silence, finally the father yelled to get out and I just shut the door. I stood there for what seemed like hours, then finally made my way back to the room, completely forgetting about having to take a crap and just laid down. I laid there all night, wide awake, till 7 when my mom picked me up the next day. I never told anyone and never went to another sleepover at my friend's house or even went inside his house again in fear of having to see his parents and having that talk with him. TLDR. Witnessed a friend's parents swinging with another couple when I was 8 or 9 at a sleepover while just trying to find a bathroom. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.